Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about 5 common mistakes that I see up-and-coming producers, writers, songwriters, and creators make when they are recording their music. But before I start, could you please like, subscribe, and press the bell? I think the bell might be on the other side to support my channel. The first mistake is probably the most obvious, and that's overfilling your track. You don't need 101 sounds to get your idea across. You've got to remember that you've got your vocal. Your vocal is usually the main key thing of your track. All the other instrumentation is supporting that. So even if you just had a key sound, your beats and your bass, and maybe one sample sound or something in a vocal, that's enough, as long as they're all good. Don't think that just by throwing in a lots of channels that you're going to get a better sound, because that's not what it's about. Music production is all about getting the listener to focus on the bits that you want them to focus on. You don't need 20 sounds to come at you as a listener because you don't know what you're listening to. All you really want to hear is the song and possibly a hook. The rest is really there, what you're trying to support, which is usually your vocal. So try and thin it out. Less is more. The minimal you can put into your track, the better probably the vocal comes across. So that's point one. So the second main mistake that I usually see is when I speak to up-and-coming producers and ask them, okay, so how far along are you? And quite a lot of the times they say the same thing, and that's like, oh, I can sort that out on the mastering stage. Well, no, the mastering stage is just there to beef up what you've already got. So what you should have in the first place should already be great. You shouldn't expect that if you go to mastering, he's going to wave a magic wand and make it sound exactly the way you want. Or even when you're creating it and you've got the vibe running, don't think that just by mixing it, you're going to be able to change all the sounds and make it sound a certain way that it doesn't already. Get the sound right in the first place so that when you mix and master, you're only enhancing and making better what you already have. That's why you'll always hear me harping on about sound selection. Don't have too many of the same sounds in the same place. If you've got a really nice mid-frequency sound piano in there, don't start throwing lots of other instrumentation in that same frequency. Look for something at a higher frequency. Look for something in a lower frequency. It's definitely something you should spend more time on, that you get the right sounds doing the right things. So you're not relying on a mix or relying on a mastering engineer to make it sound absolutely amazing, because it's not going to. It will still be the same track and it will sound the same because of the ingredients that you've used in the first place. So get that right. So as you can see in this example, there's 3 vocals recorded: vocal 1, vocal 2, and vocal 3. Number 1 is recorded way too loud. Number 2 is way too quiet. And number 3, it looks really good. That's a really decent level that they've got there. Just by looking at number 1, you can see that it's going right to the top of the waveforms in this section here and in these 2 sections here. That will probably mean that that file will automatically start clipping. So when you're playing it back, you'll have a really loud clip in those places. Once these clips have been recorded onto your file, you cannot remove them. The question I would ask when it comes to this vocal is, what is happening here? Is it because someone's standing further away, or the instrument has been mic'd up and we haven't boosted the channel enough, or something? I would want to know why it is so quiet. The problem you have is if it's really quiet because the vocalist is standing too far away, or the microphone is too far away from your bass amp or from your acoustic guitar or whatever else you might be using, then what you would get is you would get more background noise, which would then mean if you turn it up, that you'll get a lot of that noise that you don't really want, rather than an as clean a sound as you can get. You want it to be as close to the microphone as possible without being too loud on your input level, but you want to do that so that you have minimal sound coming from the background of that room or of that environment. So having your microphone closer to the source is better. So if this was a vocal and the person stood in the right place, then basically it's just a volume thing and you just turn it up until you get what we see in audio number 3. Just aim to get your recording volume as close to -6, but not above it. And then a rule of thumb for you should be is that you record all your instrumentation down dry. No effects, no compression, no reverbs, nothing. Unless you might need to put a slight bit of compression on the vocals. But if you're going to do that, just do it so minimal that you can't even really notice it, but it just contains those peaks or spikes that someone might have in their vocals. And then we get on to the fourth common mistake, and that is not getting the performance right in the first place. So if you're going to record a guitar, it's all about the mic position. What room is that person in? Is the room dry? Is it wet? Am I getting a lot of reverb from that room? Is it a really small room? Is it a huge room? Where am I using one mic? Am I using two mics? Where am I putting those mics? What type of a sound am I looking for? All these questions need to be asked for each thing that you record. So for instance, when it comes to a vocal, the microphone is very important. You can try 10 different microphones with one vocalist, and some of them will fit better with that person and some of them won't. Some good vocalists have their own microphone that they like to bring. That's great because they know that really fits with their voice. But in general, try and get the best equipment for what you're doing. If you can't afford the best microphone, or you can't afford the most greatest things that we all want, which they can be very expensive, then at least look at everything else. Look at the room. You might want to put up sheets around that person, cloths around that person. You might want to really deaden that room in all different kinds of ways. I've been in home studios where people have literally put 4 mattresses in a little box and put someone in it, but they've got a really good vocal sound from it. So don't think that just doing it the home standard way that you can't get that result, because you can. But spend time on that. That's important. Get the sound really good in the first place. When you record with live instruments like a band or something like that, you'll really know how valuable this point is. And spending 3 hours on getting the right guitar sound mic'd up the right way will pay dividends by the time you get to mixing. So that once you've recorded that and it's sitting in your track, it's already there. It doesn't really need much. You might need to take a bit of bottom end off or a bit of top end or something, but most of it is already there. So record the sound well. However that is, you can do that. Make sure that you've got the best environment that you can possibly get, so that the sound you have is as best as you can get it. And then we get on to mistake number 5. And a lot of inexperienced producers tend to put too much reverb and delay on their tracks to get them to sound really great, because they've got all these effects on it. If you need those effects to make your track sound bearable or listenable or good, then your core idea is probably not as good as it should be. You should be able to play a track as a demo completely without any major reverbs or delays, unless it's fundamental to a specific sound or a specific lift or a specific idea that you're bringing across, fine. But generally, if you can play a track without any reverb on it and you're just balancing it off, panning it left and right a little bit, and you're getting a really great sound on your mix, then that's showing you've done a good job. By putting tons of reverb and delays on it, and then we turn that all off and there's absolutely nothing left, that is probably usually not the right thing to do. Just stay away from reverbs and delays. Just knock it on the head, don't use them, work without, and see how well you can get your core track to sound before you even get to that stage. And when you then do add reverbs and delays, you then add another dimension to your track that you didn't have in the first place. And then you'll understand from where you started and where you've now mixed it with all those effects, what a good core sound can become once you have your effects on it. Avoid these 5 mistakes and I'm sure you will see the difference in your productions. Please like and subscribe and press the bell for future content. Thank you. All the best.